energy generators. Emergency generators, my apology. And Bassem is going to talk about the code changes, and Ken will cover the installations.
Good morning. My name is Bassem, and I'm from M&E Engineering. Unfortunately, there is no rebates for emergency generator. This is a code requirement, and you have to keep it in good order in order to work. It's a life and safety system. So I think everybody is familiar with the Ontario regulation established in 2001. What this code is really about is maintaining the generator as per CSAA B139. So what do you need to know? Originally, the regulation called for all diesel installation, all diesel appliances have to be inspected by the fuel distributors to see if there's any deficiency that you have to be aware of so that you can rectify it. Now, because of the sheer volume of the amount of installations, they put it into a certain period of time, starting from 2002 and ending in 2007. By 2007, all diesel installations should have been through a full, comprehensive inspection by the fuel distributors. But again, by 2007, we're still seeing systems nowadays that haven't been inspected and haven't been reviewed by the fuel distributor. So what we're looking for is basically TSSA is the governing body that look after the implementation of the code, the safety system. It's like the elevators, but there's a separate division that goes after the boilers, separate division goes after the theme parks, and separate division that goes after the diesel code. So what are we looking for? Basically, when you have a generator, you have three main systems. You have your diesel fuel system, which represents the tanks, the piping, the accessories like the filters, the valves, the anti-siphon valves. And you have the exhaust stack, exhaust muffler, and then you would have your ventilation system, which is represented by the dampers. So going back to the fuel system, if you look at the tanks, so you have different type of tanks. You have single wall, double bottom tanks. But in any occasion, the code now is coming to a change. Single wall tanks will not be allowed for a new installation. So everything will go to double wall. As far as the stack, nowadays we're looking at having, the code calls for a double wall stainless steel exhaust because it's an approved venting system. But for, I would say, 90% of the generators installed in Ontario, they all have the Schedule 40 black steel, which is not a problem, but it's not an approved venting system. So what you have to do now is you have to go through the safety measures that the SSA are requesting in order to maintain this Schedule 40. That's why sometimes you have to do temperature tests, sometimes you have to do a CO test, pressure test the stack to see for leaks. You have to make sure that the penetration through the wall or through the ceiling have the adequate clearance from combustibles. As far as the dampers are part of the ventilation system. So you will have an intake louver to get the fresh air in, you have an exhaust louver to get the hot air out, and then you have your circulating dampers. On the fresh air damper, you need to have a spring-loaded actuator. So in case of a power failure, the damper automatically springs open. It allows fresh air to come in, and when the generator starts, you already have, your combustion doesn't have any issue with that. So, and TSSA, as an added safety, have added an alarm. So if the damper didn't open, this alarm have to go somewhere, have to notify either an operator or through the fire alarm panel, or maybe just a panel at the security desk where somebody can recognize that there is an issue there and you have to look into it. So if we're talking about the tanks and where can we put in the tanks, tanks can be installed outside, inside, on the ground floor. Capacities varies from 50 liters, and I've seen installations inside buildings up to 20,000 liters. Now, how safe it is, Again, it is allowed by the Ontario Fire Code to have a large size of diesel storage, provided that you have the proper containment for it, proper fire suppression. The type of tanks, each type of tank have different ratings. Some of them are rated to ULC S601, S602. Each tank has its own requirement. And if you have a single wall tank, you have to make sure that you have a containment underneath in case of a spill. You are able to catch it right before it goes out of proportion. Now, for elevated installation, sometimes you have your generator on the roof. You're going to have a main tank in the basement, and you have your day tank on the roof. So you're going to have a fuel pump system that transfers the oil from the basement all the way up to the top. And also for fuel pumps, you would have some pressure sensing devices. In case there is a leak in the piping, the pressure sensing device will shut off automatically the pump and prevent the entire amount of fuel in the tank to be spilled out. Okay, for exhaust stack, we already discussed that. Now what TSSA is trying to do is apply NFPA 211 for diesel exhaust stacks. In principle, the CSAB 139 does not discuss or go after the stacks. So they've referred to NFPA 211. NFPA 211 dictates where the stack terminates, how much the temperature of the stack should be, how much clears to combustibles. So if you have a generator that have a high temperature over 1,000 degrees, it's called the medium heat appliance. Less than 1,000 degrees, it's called the low heat appliance. The majority of the installations for diesel stacks, for diesel generators in Toronto are considered to be low heat appliance. But natural gas generators usually have a higher temperature. They're within the medium heat appliance temperature range. And the other item is the clearance to combustibles. A lot of time you go up on the roof and you see that the stack goes out through a pitch pocket. You have probably few inches from combustibles, and that have led to several fires. The code requires at least 18 inches from combustibles, which you don't see in most of the installations. All what you see is just a cone and sealing around the pitch pocket. Same thing for dampers. Nowadays, it has to be a fail-safe open within 15 seconds. An alarm signal is required, and it should be monitored by an operator. Now, our preference is to go after the fire alarm panel where you have your generators monitored there. But most cases, the fire alarm panel is out of date and doesn't have adequate zones to put in the damper actuator. But we've managed to put in the alarm panels in a place where somebody can hear it or somebody can see it and advise the building tech. So the diesel fuel components part of the tank system, you have your piping, valves. Everything has to be ULC, with the exception of the piping. So let's say if you have a fire valve, the fire valve has to be a ULC rated. And in the market, there is no ULC valves up till now. And until recently, they've introduced one type of valve that have a ULC rating, but it's only ½ inch. So anytime you want to install diesel fuel accessories that's not ULC, you have to apply for a variance with TSSA. And after you apply for the variance, they will come in and inspect it and provide you with a letter saying that it has been done properly. So majority of installation would require a variance. Anytime you have a deviation from the code, you would require a variance. Some of the items would require a stamped letter from an engineer, especially the exhaust stack because of the safety issues associated with it. So you will have some contractors coming into the building, oh, we will do the diesel fuel upgrade, and you don't need an engineer. In fact, you do, because every time you have to certify the stack, you need a letter stamped and signed by an engineer. And that's why we have some issue with the property management. So, well, I can do it without an engineer, and they will guarantee that it will pass TSSA. You know what? It will not, because they're going to ask for a letter signed and stamped. But again, you don't have the authority over property managers to convince them, but It happens. So after the whole thing has been completed and designed and sent to TSSA, they will send an inspector to see the system in operation. They want to test every single thing. Sometimes they ask to witness the temperature tests. Sometimes they want to test the pumps. So keep in mind that at the end of the day, and before you complete the system, TSSA have to come and inspect it, and they will provide you with a letter saying that, yep, it has been done, it has been completed. So what do you need to do? Don't panic. If your fuel distributor told you that you're not allowed to have any more fuel in the tanks, you will still have some time to get a fill, or you can arrange for a one-time temporary fill through TSSA, provided that you have applied for variance and you have been proactive and looking after the deficiencies. And it's not a complicated thing. It's a lengthy thing. It may take some time, but at the end of the day, the idea is if you meet the requirement, you should be okay. It's costly, but it's not something out of the ordinary. And again, I will leave the questions till the end. If anybody has any question, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Bassem.
Good luck.
The RHB Insider Network is an RHB Inc. production, publishers of RHB Magazine, and the producers of RHB Newsreel.